Hello, Pasadena ISD students. Welcome to the mini lesson on 8A, Learning Target 4. Today you're going to be working with informational text, identifying characteristics of style, and explaining how those elements of style help the author to achieve his purpose. I'm going to do a think aloud, creating a quick write, and completing a graphic organizer, and then you will do the same for your practice opportunities. Just a quick note before we get started with the practice. I want you to understand that style simply relates to the way writers communicate ideas. Do they use formal or informal language? Do they use a variety of sentence structures, complex or simple? What types of words do the authors use? And then are there certain punctuation marks that they use more than others? All of those elements can help us to understand what the author is trying to achieve and how he is working toward getting us to understand his purpose. I will use paragraphs 1 through 3 to kind of show you how to think about the items that you're going to work with. Taking a look at the graphic organizer, you are going to be asked to identify 2 characteristics of the author's style within the paragraphs you're reviewing. And based on those 2 characteristics, you'll be asked to identify a writing style. And then for the quick write, you'll be provided the frame, which reads, the author's style is characterized by, and of course you'll list the 2 by blank and blank. And since his purpose is 2, you're going to need to identify the author's purpose and then explain how the style helps him to achieve his purpose. So you'll be well versed in that by the time this video is over. So what I'm going to do is go back to paragraphs 1 through 3 in order to identify 2 characteristics of style. And those characteristics might be specific word choice. If you'll recall from some of the previous learning targets, I might be looking at the formal or informal language that the author is using, perhaps figurative language, dialect. Any element of style that the author is using is what I'm going to be looking for. According to the pieces of evidence that I pulled from paragraphs 1 and 3, I can identify the author's writing style as somewhat impersonal. Let's take a look at the evidence from paragraph 1. Misconceptions that distort both our politics and our domestic policy making. So because the author is utilizing pretty formal language, I could identify his writing style as formal or impersonal. Moving to the second piece of evidence from paragraph 3, I can identify the author's use of statistics. So when an author uses statistics, usually the purpose is to inform the audience of specific information that is relevant to the topic. So impersonal and informative could be elements of the author's writing style. So that's what I'm going to put here, and that's where you will put the identification of your author's writing style. The bank of choices that you'll want to consider will likely be informal or formal, informative or persuasive, maybe sometimes even descriptive, maybe narrative if you're working with a speech that kind of tells a story when you're working with informational text. But for the most part, within reason, you're going to be looking at personal, impersonal, expository, persuasive, and descriptive. You can identify style characteristics by looking at the following: word choice, use of factual information, embedded opinions, description, complex or simple sentences, etc. So when you're looking at contractions and shorter sentences, you're probably looking at a less formal writing style versus sophisticated syntax and more mature diction. You're probably looking at a more formal style. Okay, now we're ready to respond to the quick write. Based on the author's writing style and the evidence that I have here and here for the characteristics of the author's writing style, I was able to craft a quick write that reads, the author's style is characterized by his use of formal language and statistics. Since one of the purposes is to identify poverty as a common issue in our country, The impersonal, informative style helps him to achieve his purpose by presenting the information in a factual and logical manner, and that makes him seem both credible and knowledgeable. Now it's your turn. You are ready to utilize the remaining paragraphs to complete your two graphic organizers and your quick writes. And then, of course, you have another selection that you can use for practice. And I know that you're going to nail this. So good luck.